Zion Elections, where we follow the developments of the Toronto mayoral by-elections with the objective of identifying the ideal candidate. I'm Tony Redmond, and I'll be your host today. Today, we're going to be joined by candidate Frank D'Angelo. Frank has a very comprehensive platform, which he will share with us today, and hopefully we're going to learn something about how to make Toronto a better place. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you. Well, I was born and raised in Toronto. My main foundation of my childhood and my adulthood is I was a musician. I traveled all over Canada with an 18, 19-piece band. And then my father had enough of that, so he made me cut my hair and go work with him. And then he sold his business. I guess he had had enough of working in his life, and he sold it to Saputo, and I started my own business out of a trunk. So at this stage of my life, and you know, being born and raised in Toronto, and I love the city. I think Toronto is one of the most eclectic, cosmopolitan cities in the world, and it goes right up there with my favorite cities: Chicago, St. Louis, New Orleans, and New York. Right. And but even though it's got those beautiful attributes of those cities, it's also beginning to get the bad habits of those cities. Yeah, and I'm not trying to be facetious or sarcastic, but what's driven me to decide to I'm not a politician, never have been, but I've been an entrepreneur and a businessman, and even when I ran my band from the age of 14, when we played weddings, someone went on the road, I did the payroll, I hired the people, I wrote the music. I've always been in charge, so I'm hoping to bring some charge, some leadership to the mayor role in Toronto, because it seems to me, and I could be wrong, that there's never been, like, I mean, they promise the politicians the sky, the sun, and the moon, and then when they get elected, they deliver a storm, and the umbrella is only given to the donors and the top 1%, and everybody else gets drenched.
Very interesting analogy, and I hope you don't mind if I borrow it sometime.
The politicians, for the last, I would say, 25 years, have dedicated themselves to specific areas of the city to grow it, make it beautiful. And then the rest of the city, they've swept the dirt under the carpet. And what happens when you do that to your house? If you use your basement to throw garbage down and you don't take care of it, you're going to get cockroaches. You're going to get an infestation of bugs. I love the city of Toronto. I can understand. I know we discussed some things on my platform, but you've inspired me for some different thought process right now. Let me tell you what I've noticed. I can read a balance sheet and an income statement. Wherever there's a debit, there's a credit. Wherever there's a credit, there's a debit. The city of Toronto is over budget by almost $1 billion. Let's call it $1 billion, $790 million. But here's something that's very I wouldn't say interesting. It's extremely disturbing. There's another $650 to $700 million in tickets that they have not collected. That are over a decade. So you've incurred the car, you've incurred the enforcement officer, you've paid all of those things, and you're in the hole. 680 million. So is that 680 million plus the billion? Are we 1.6 billion in a hole?
What you're saying basically, if we collect on those tickets, we can pay off our deficit.
Exactly. That's, you know, it's like, you know, you've created these credit cards with high priced interest, and you're never gonna stick your nose out of the water. You're gonna be taken in water. Since the beginning of my time, I've always been sympathetic to the homeless, because I know that it's not their fault. Most of these people have mental disorders. They're challenged, and some of them are even handicapped. They're with disability. What the politicians have done is they keep passing it over. They promise, and it's getting worse. And we're not California, we're not Hawaii, we're not Florida. In the winter, you freeze to death, and in the summer, you die of dehydration.
Correct. Yes.
So I've decided rather than to put, the taxpayer who's already burdened doesn't want another tax because he doesn't, he wants maybe help the homeless, but he's already stretched to the limit.
Yeah.
I want to put a
Yes.
lottery together, and I want to call it Hope, just like Lotto 649, Lotto Max. But the difference is the money will go directly to
Where the money
sheltering,
goes.
directly to the healthcare. And I will not get these fat cats who are administrators of lotteries and they take a big vig, a big commission off the top. Not going to happen. We're going to run it with the help of the Ontario provincial government, which I'm sure they want to help the homeless, the great premier that we have. And also, it gives them a chance to live their life.
Getting to a couple of the important platform items, like I pointed out earlier on, the two that I wanted to chat with you on are primarily climate change and then on the housing issue. But given that you are one of the few candidates I've seen make the climate change a priority on your platform, what are you bringing to the table to allow people to understand the kind of, I don't like the word sacrifices, but there will be change and there will be a need to cut down on some of the luxuries that we've become accustomed to if we're going to be effective at fighting climate change. What do you say to that, and how are you going to introduce those things?
Well, first, I'll tell you what I consider there's many derivatives. There's many causes of human beings creating climate change because, unfortunately, and I'm generalizing, not everybody, people are lazy and they don't care. They don't care if they buy a can of hairspray and it's an aerosol. They want whatever their hairdo is. They want to use the hairspray. So it's all little things to make up. So you're from my era. So the 60s, cars have evolved. One of the biggest polluters in the world, from globe to globe, where there's any highway, any logistical ways to have a car that creates massive pollution. But it's evolved like the tobacco industry, because fossil fuel is a tobacco industry of transportation. It's some still smoke. But here's what I want to tell you. I am a believer in the electric car. And now it seems like the Premier of Ontario has put back a subsidy on a specific cost. I don't know I think it's 60,000 or less, you get the subsidy. 60,000 or more, there's no subsidy, which makes sense. But if you buy an electric car for 60 G's or 50 grand, whatever, you now have a gas station at home. You go home, you plug in, and you're not paying. If you're a big driver, you're not spending $150 a week and having to go to a gas station and wait in a line and germify your hands with the pump where I have to and then Purell myself. So my vision is I will not allow fossil fuel cars in the downtown area. That's the first thing that I want to do. So I want to rethink that. And I will give a license, a better deal to people who are bringing electric cars, whether it's Lyft or Uber or the cab drivers. And you're going to pay a big fat premium if you're driving a fossil fuel car. And this thing that everybody's fighting about, the bicycle lanes and eliminating them, well, they have no cojones, these politicians. They're trying to cater to everybody. You can't do that.
We have a few candidates, like you said, who are heavily in favor of removing all the bicycle lanes and then just getting more traffic.
I'm in favor of leaving the bicycle lanes. I'm in favor of leaving the bicycle lanes. In fact, I'm in favor of expanding the bicycle lanes. The other thing that I want to do is I want to reorganize Toronto Transit. The first thing I will do, I will go to the Premier's office and demand a forensic audit of Metrolinx. And I'm going to demand that the executive of Metrolinx all get fired. You have Metrolinx, whose billions are disappearing, but there's no money for healthcare. There's no money for nurses. There's no money for education. It's mind-boggling to me. You have to realize that the politicians, the career politicians, they become deaf, blind, and mute once they get elected. But all their senses are working very well when they're trying to get elected. I just want to understand very clearly, as a Torontonian, as a Canadian, why, if a business is not successful, the bank pulls the plug, you close down, and if you're not delivering on time to your customers, you lose your customers. If you're not doing your job properly, now you have a company which is a crown corporation, run under the tutelage of Ontario, the premier, and they are allowed to do whatever. This is a corporation, a multi-billion-dollar corporation that gets paid bonuses on incompetence. Any place else, you get fired. The other thing is you need to bring at least another 30-40% of ridership back to the subways, right? And you can improve the technology, you can improve the efficiency, and you can the technology is the most important thing because it will help you with climate change. You know, we do not use lead and gas anymore. We've evolved. We've got catalytic converters. We have different levels of controlling, but fossil fuels, yesterday's news.
Our platform is the only one I saw that actually looked at the issue of housing in the three different areas, right? The homeless, the renters who can't find affordable homes, and then the buyers who can't get available homes. So how are you going to treat with that policy-wise, and what is your plan for dealing with that? Where's your priority, with the homeless or the renters? And give me an idea.
They're separate. They're separate issues, and they have to be dealt separate. The homeless, they need to have shelters built for them, specific to them, so they don't have to run around, right? And they need they need specific medical to specify to the issues that they're having, right? That are in the shelters. You need a proper system organized for the homeless, or it's going to be perpetual. The way to do it is you need a proper plan to take a look at the different areas of city property where you can put shelters and fund them with the lottery. Now, let's go to affordable homes. Not, people hear affordable housing, they think you want to give houses away for free on the backs of taxpayers. No, I'm talking about affordable homes. So if they're a new home buyer in the city of Toronto, I will defer their property tax over 10 years. It's not forgiven, it's not for free, but it will be spread over 10 years. So for the first 3 years, they don't pay any property tax. And after 3 years, whatever they got was accrued will be done and blended into 10 years. Hopefully that 10 years is giving them a good head start. They got better. They've increased their salary. They've done well. If not, they're going to have to sell the property, right? But at least we're giving them a chance to start.
We have a couple minutes left, and I want to give you the stage to talk about your plans, and just open discussion, anything you want to share with the public about your candidacy and where you plan to go from there.
Okay, well, I decided to run for mayor for the city of Toronto is because I love the city. I love our city. I was born and raised here, and I want to make sure that the city is available to enjoy for decades. And the way it's going, it's not. It will become another urban disaster where they create pockets of luxury, opulence, and decadence. And then on the other side, there's no more middle class. I was raised in a nice middle class, comfortable, semi-detached, back split. We had 2 bathrooms. I had a great time. And being Italian, I knew the basement was another level of living. So the things I want to do is I want to help the citizens of Toronto, and I want to implement their priorities, not the priorities of the politician, the developers, and the donors. The citizens are voting for you. You work for them.
Yeah.
I want to help. I want to prioritize the priorities of the citizens of Toronto. Thank you for having me. I'm available for you anytime you want me. You're a good soul. You have great energy, and I wish you nothing but the best. And my site is frankformayor.ca.
Thank you for taking the time to watch our presentation. For more information on the critical issues that affect us, please visit our website, advocateforchange.com. And don't forget to subscribe and share. Thanks again. Have a great day.